Alright, I believe we are live. I'm gonna wait a little bit to let a couple people show up. Gonna make sure I got all the links in place properly. Want people to be able to see your channel over there. And you said you're not streaming this on your end?
No, I'm just gonna record it, and I'll just post the recorded result on the Zoids channel.
Right. Does that not... Okay, so your channel name, when you use the @ to find them, it's StarCrossedSouls 5950. Okay. Alright. So, that's saved. The tag is in place. Let me grab the URL. And I'm going to go drop a link over in my Discord server so that way people can find us.
Yeah, drop it right here in this server too, because I'll link it. I'll link it to a few people as well.
Where is the announce? There it is. There it is. All right, and we're on the research library, right? That's our shared server.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Conveniently in the Transformers chat there.
Yes. I didn't think this part through. I'm gonna have to be playing. Yeah. I'm trying to play a fighting game while looking mostly off my computer, and the syncing is decent for Streamlabs, but it's not as good as on the direct monitor. But my setup isn't quite big enough to have both the monitor and the computer on the desk at the same time. So the monitor's like sitting behind it, but I need to have the laptop pulled up so I can look at the chat. Hello, Kirby. Welcome to the chat. Just having a chill stream tonight with my buddy over there at StarCrossedSouls, and we're going to be talking about Transformers. Hey, do you want
Is that Kirby as in Poyo?
Yes, yes. Yeah, you want to go ahead and say hi to the stream over here?
How's it going, everybody?
All right, so do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Because this is your first time being actually on one of our streams together. Like, we don't have any video content with you, like, at length over there.
Yeah, so I have known Caleb over here for about like 7, 8 years now, through our mutual shared interests, and we kind of, just made friends independently of the fact that we were interested in doing YouTube content, and then just realized, oh, hey, we're both actually trying to make similar content on similar topics at the same time, so we decided we'll help each other out a little bit, help brainstorm, help with some of the creative process. And so for the last, I want to say like 2 or 3 years now, we've been pretty much neck and neck with updating each other on projects and providing feedback and support, and just generally trying to help each other out, doing the whole YouTube thing. And one of the current projects that I have right now is a retrospective series of video essays on my main channel that is going through all of the major Transformers video game releases. And the main reason I wanted to do that series was to talk about some of the better games in that series, but also to talk about preservation, because a lot of the modern ones post Xbox 360, PS3 era have been delisted from all of the online stores, including Steam, so they're no longer available for legal purchase anymore. And so it kind of gives me an opportunity to talk about Transformers, because it's one of my favorite franchises that I don't have a good avenue to talk about. I don't have a lot of friends IRL that are Transformers fans. My wife kind of shakes her head at it when I talk about it, and so Caleb and I made a little agreement here that he would cover some of the earlier games, some of the Beast Wars era games, and I would cover like the Armada game and the movie games and so on. And eventually down the road, we are talking about doing a collaborative video essay on Transformers Devastation, which will be where this project ends. So and I am happy to be here tonight discussing the latest film.
Very well said. Very well said. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, isn't the reason that the majority of the games got delisted is because the uh, contract between Activision and Hasbro expired? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So they had a publishing contract, and it expired. I want to say it was like 2017 or something like that. And so the Devastation was the last game that they made, and they had DLC for it and everything. They even had a PS4 remastered version of Fall of Cybertron that I think came out in like 2015 or something like that, and all of that was deleted.
Yep. The
So the
DLC is
only way
gone,
to
even though you
play,
can get the disc for it now. The DLC is now off the stores, so that really
correct.
sucks.
And so if you want to play, and it sucks because War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron had a very loyal multiplayer base, and the game based on the first movie has a very loyal modding community. But you're basically like stuck buying pirated copies or keys that have been redeemed yet on PC because you can't buy them on Steam anymore. They're just gone.
Oh, oh man, that really is terrible preservation if you don't have like a home console for it.
Yeah, and it was just announced. It was actually just announced that there was a similar thing that happened over on the RPG side of things with NIS Entertainment, Nippon Ichi Software. They have the publishing rights to some RPGs on the Vita, the PS4, and the Switch that are about to expire. And so they just let people know, hey, you won't be able to purchase these games anymore after X date. And it's like a 2-week notice. It's like
Oh dear.
these rights are right about to expire, so you better hurry up and buy them now. And I did. I had to go ahead and buy an RPG. It's a dungeon crawling RPG on the Vita called The Lost Child. Because if I didn't buy it then, I would be forced to track down a ridiculously expensive physical copy. And a similar thing happened with Nippon Ichi Software and the Danganronpa series a few years prior, where I guess Spike Chunsoft is going with a different U.S. publisher for the Switch Trilogy Edition that just came out. And so NIS does not have the rights to Danganronpa anymore.
Oh, well, sucks for them, man. Why is it that so many of these games are just like, well, not being well preserved? Like, who exactly is at fault here when it comes to a lot of this? Because, like, I know that, contracts expire, but do people not really think about future generations and future-proofing these games, especially if they have good games such as Transformers Devastation? And, like, War for Cybertron is, like, one of, if not the most revered game in the entire Transformers IP, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I just got done recording the live action segments for the War for Cybertron video, and I talk about this a little bit in that video, and I say that it's a two sides of the same coin, because in the seventh generation, when you had the ability to just hook up your console to an internet and download games, the accessibility to games and to high quality multiplayer and DLC and all that was like a level of convenience that was just unprecedented in games prior to that. The same thing can be said with like the innovation of Steam and all of its competitor platforms on PC, because that all kind of happened around the same time.
Yes.
And then, but it's like, it may have been an innovator and a trendsetter, but it set the doomsday clock on preservation, because the moment that you make the game tied to the online service, the prerequisite becomes the online service has to stay online for the game to be accessible. And so there's lots of back and forth discussion right now about which digitally downloaded storefronts have like DRM, where you'll have to provide some kind of like proof of ownership after the console can't connect to the server anymore because the server doesn't exist. So the concern right now is like when they shut down the servers for the Xbox 360 and the PS3, that all your arcade games will be basically demos, because they won't be able to authenticate that you purchased it, because it won't be able to connect to the server anymore.
That's horrible.
But I think I told you in a conversation in passing recently. There's a great Twitter account I've been following called Does It Play, and they have a website that is dedicated to chronicling whether or not a modern game will play off the disc, or if it requires a day one patch to make it playable. So, for instance, there's a lot of games that like don't require an online connection, but require the day one patch to play in a fixed state with that are not like super buggy. And so any game that like plays off the disc, doesn't require internet, and doesn't require a day one patch to be playable is like future proofed. But if it does require one of those things, it's potentially fucked unless these companies like actively do something about this problem.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think like the most recent Tony Hawk Pro Skater game, that the disc only contained the demo. Like all that was on the disc was basically just the demo, and the day one patch or the bug fix that they released for it was actually the rest of the game. I remember
that was a particularly egregious example of that. I find it really funny as well. We just had a bunch of news about new games come out, and like people are talking about part 2 of the Final Fantasy VII remake, which is called Rebirth.
Yeah,
and it's like 2 discs on PS5, and I'm like,
what?
Really?
Wow.
So by 2 discs, you mean the 120 gigabyte install disc and then the game disc, right? That's what you actually mean by that, right?
Whew, that sounds huge. Let me catch up with chat real quick. Kirby finally got their hands on the Battle Network Legacy Collection. You know, good job. Very nice. Glad you can finally join the party. Sir Isaac, they what? In what regards to that question? Because
what?
the chat might be a little bit distinct here. Hello, Bree.
I'm actually
glad you're in the chat here too.
While you're doing that, I'm actually going to check and see if Does It Play has a listing for the Battle Network collection.
Okay. Yeah. It should. Like in my experience, most Nintendo Switch games, at least the ones that I've played, generally are pretty playable. There are some bugs. Like I know Animal Crossing had a really good cloning glitch that was like version 1.0 exclusive. Oh, 2 discs on PS5. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, that is kind of absurd. I mean, I remember that being a thing on like Xbox 360. Like that's the most recent I remember, because even Castlevania Lords of Shadow was pretty ridiculously huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most Switch games, it seems, play off the cart. Most like remasters as well generally play off the cart, like the Metroid Prime remaster that just came out. The Does It Play gave them kind of a glowing review, said it's a solid launch, there's no patch required, plays right off the cart, you're good to go.
Yeah.
They do not have one for the Battle Network collection yet, though, and I'll let you know if they post one.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, Bree says that the new Zelda game has a cloning glitch too. I heard it actually has like 2 of them, and at least one of them got patched out recently. Alright, for those on my end who want to know what this is Transformers Beast Wars Transmetals on N64. It's a really janky fighting game that is definitely a novelty if you're a fan of Beast Wars. Sorry for that really weird looking like line on the side of the screen. It's because I'm running the N64 through an HDMI converter, and without screwing up the aspect ratio even further, I couldn't really do anything about that. So I'm really just footage gathering for a future video where I talk about all the Beast Wars games, and I'm going to trim that in editing, but it's stuck there for the time being. Yeah, there was a PlayStation version of this game as well, but it had different characters and different camera angles, and honestly it looks just like a lot more smoother of a game. And then before both of these, there was just a Beast Wars PS1 title that was like a action-adventure story game, and then there was, of course, the Beast Wars, the second Game Boy Color game, where you can play as like characters from Beast Wars the second as well as the original Beast Wars. Like you had Optimus Primal, and then you also had like Lio Convoy and others like that. That one was the Japanese exclusive, though. Excuse me, I'm
watching the gameplay footage right now. Yeah. on your stream.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since I actually played this, and I'm having to resort to jank tactics to win because I want to at least show the ending. Because there's one boss that you can only encounter if you manage to get to the end with a perfect run. I want to at least get footage of the boss. I don't have to win.
Yeah.
I just want to show them. Yeah,
I love the 2 layers of pre-rendered background in the background.
Yeah. So, funny thing is here, if there's a character who's a palette swap or a reskin of another one, the way you unlock them is by holding the Z button on top of their icon, and then you select hit them with A button, and then you can select who you want. So for Tarantulas, we get Black Arachnia, who's just a stretched Tarantulas model, and then for Cheetor, we have 2 reskins. We get Tigatron and Ravage. Like in the show. Tigatron never went transmetal, and Ravage actually did show up, but had a different body. And I think later they actually did make this model of Ravage into a toy as like a BotCon exclusive or something.
That checks out.
Sorry if my voice sounds a little stuffed up. I'm still getting over some sinus junk, so that's...
Oh man, me too. Like, this is actually the first day that I sound normal in the last week. So last Saturday I had a big party for my 30th birthday, and was getting sick like that evening, and I didn't really realize it. So I've been like yelling all day at the party, and I was coming down with something, and then the whole week was just awful. Even yesterday was pretty rough.
Yeah, your throat's
but today I
just
finally
shot.
sound like somewhat normal.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think the way it started with me was I cut my grass late at night. First of all, I kicked up a whole lot of dust, breathed in a lot of that, and then that night I slept with like the fan pointing directly at me because it got jostled. By something, and I was just too lazy to readjust it, so I had that blowing on me, like, on my face directly, constantly, all night. So, woke up, and is like, just minor sinus infection, I guess. So, but yeah, it's on its way out, so hopefully I'll be back to normal and better sounding by tomorrow. Isaac said he got something pretty good on sale. Yes, enlighten us. What did you find? And while we wait on that reply, you said, in addition to the Beast Wars games, I also want to play Call of the Future. I actually want to get a better setup for streaming that I have right now. I actually want to be able to halfway pay attention to that one. That will actually be like a dedicated stream just for that game as opposed to just having it as a background, basically. Call of the Future is a G1 game that really should have come out here in North America. Like, I feel robbed that it didn't. Even if it's not great, Kid Me would have loved it. Like, just based on how everything looks. It looks like it was ready to ship, but it looks like maybe a license deal got stopped at the last minute or something. Because it is in full English. You can play it in both English and Japanese, and the English version actually has, like, all the localized names, like Autobots and Decepticons, Optimus Prime instead of Convoy, etc. So I'm thinking that it actually was very close to getting localized, either here or in the United Kingdom, but it never did.
Yeah, but the dub is not like... Isn't the dub like really, really bad?
From some of the cutscenes I've watched, yeah.
They would have had to have... now, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but like... Maybe it was like a Hasbro thing where they were like, nope, this isn't up to quality. Like, that we would have to completely redub this to localize it, which... wouldn't be out of the question. It's happened with other games before, but...
Yeah, I will say that even Beast Wars managed to get most of the original actors back for it, so that was a thing.
Yeah.
You said Armada
The
had
Legendary
a couple
Edition
edits.
manga box set. That's pretty sick.
Ooh, that does sound really awesome. I've always wanted to like fully experience the Legend of Zelda manga. I remember I read A Link to the Past and I skimmed Ocarina of Time a long time ago, but those are some that I've really been meaning to get into, as well as the Kingdom Hearts manga. I'm always interested in game adaptations of manga because I think it helps. It gives me a look into an artist's interpretation of how the events went down. Even if it's not necessarily canon, I like seeing different ideas.
Yeah, I've been slowly trying to find all the Zelda manga for Michelle. She has a good chunk of them, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And I picked up the manga for Tales of Berseria. I think a couple of the Tales games have manga adaptations, and that's the one I was most curious about.
Okay, so have I just not gotten hit this round yet, or is the game bugged and I'm not taking damage? Because I thought I got hit a couple times, but my HP bar is still
Both are
full.
equally likely.
No, there it goes. I just didn't actually get hit meaningfully, because I tumbled a few times. I guess that was just like a grapple, but it didn't do any damage. I don't know. So I want to play Call of the Future, and then I also, of course, want to play Devastation. So that's going to be where both of our video series kind of converge. I don't really have a time frame for when I get all this done. My original idea was to get some Beast Wars videos up before Rise of the Beast came out, but I mean, we saw how well that went down, didn't we? So, on the subject of Rise of the Beasts, what did you think of the movie?
Well, before I talk about the movie itself, I need to tell you how ass my theater experience was.
Yeah, I remember. For context, he went to see the movie at 9:30 this morning, and it was just a cluster bomb in there, from what he tells me.
Yeah, so I gotta be honest about something for a second. I have barely been to the theater since COVID. I think the only other film screenings I've been to
Heaven's Feel.
since COVID was Heaven's Feel Part 3 and Macross Plus. I got a Fathom Events screening for Macross Plus, which was amazing. And but between all the Fathom Events screenings, Heaven's Feel Part 3 went fine actually. But when I saw Charge Counterattack, I told you how they never turned the lights off the entire movie.
I
So
forgot about that.
we watched the entirety of Charge Counterattack with the lights on. And then when we did Macross Plus, they accidentally started the movie like 15 minutes in and then had to like unfuck themselves and start it back at the beginning, which was really embarrassing. And then with this movie, again, I get a 9:30 screening because I wanted to see it, but I also wanted the rest of my day because, tomorrow's Monday and I'm going to have to go back to work, and that's always like a dreadful thought. So I wanted the rest of my day to finish everything, and I go to this 9:30 screening, and the movie doesn't... I walk in the theater, and it's completely black in there. There's no lights on. I have to use my phone to find my seat, and then 30 minutes go by. The film doesn't start. People are getting up out of the auditorium to let them know it hasn't started yet. And then they start, and the picture is not like lined up correctly. They're showing like the AMC like branded stuff at the beginning, like AMC just continuously jerking themselves off and giving you a bunch of advertisements at the beginning of the...
I was thinking that. I didn't want to be that crude and say it out loud though, because with how many of those they play in a row before they start your thing, like, first you have the make sure you got your popcorn and your drink, that's fine. And then they go to like some produced commercial with this actress who is just
oh my God, dude.
this BS. And it's
so egregious. It's like, AMC is the most meaningful experience you will ever have in your life. And there is nothing like AMC. AMC is the ultimate divine goal that all humanity strives for, and you are here right in this very moment. And it's like, stop.
She's like, movies are such a magical experience, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, then why are you in the theater by yourself? Where's everyone else?
Yeah. So that segment was all messed up. And then the only preview we get through is the Indiana Jones one before they skip to the beginning of the movie itself because we had waited long enough.
Yeah.
And we get 30 minutes into the movie, and I'll tell you the exact scene it was. It was the scene where Elena has scanning the statue with the ridiculous space age technology that doesn't exist in the 1994.
Yeah, that's the
and
weird
the statue
part.
Crumbles away and reveals the key.
The key. Yeah,
Immediately when the key is revealed, the audio cuts to like 30 minutes later in the movie.
Whoops.
And so...
One second, TJ. Fair warning to the audience. There is going to be spoilers for Transformers Rise of the Beasts. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, then... maybe duck out of this one, but I should have put spoiler warnings.
That's a good call, yeah, because I wrote my text review earlier and I put like spoilers at the very top of the page because I spoil this shit out of that movie.
Yes, so just fair warning. For anyone who comes in late, kind of sad, but I mean I did put the icon in the thumbnail, so I hope that they would assume that we are talking about it, which we are. So
yeah, so it was exactly that scene. And it starts playing like completely irrelevant audio from later in the movie, like potentially in and of itself spoiling things. And I'm like, all right, I can't take this shit anymore. I'm upset and I'm embarrassed. I get up and like everybody else in the theater gets up and we're like, hey, the audio desynced. And so the manager comes up. He's like, all right, well, I can move you to the IMAX screening. It's in previews right now. And I'm like, cool. I go over there. It's not in previews. It hasn't started yet. So I'm like, fuck me, man. I'm going to get a drink or something. And I come back like 10 minutes later. And it finally is in previews, and I'm like, great, now I can watch all of the previews I don't care about and
A
the
freaking
first
hour
30 minutes of the
later,
movie again.
or freaking like 2 hours later at this point, you finally get to see the movie, give or
Yeah,
take.
and so I watched the first, 25% or so of the movie twice, and really got to hyperanalyze those scenes.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought the whole scanning thing was really weird. Like, except for that, I thought they. I'd never been to New York City, but from what I could recall about the '90s and similar tech, except for that weird scanning thing, I thought that it seemed mostly in line with the '90s. So
oh yeah, it was a good period piece. Um, so I guess to kind of get into my thoughts, I I wrote my text review earlier. I went pretty in depth, but I'm sure we're going to go a lot more in depth here as you're like reminding me of stuff I didn't think of and bouncing other thoughts off of me.
oh yeah,
Um, but I liked it a lot. I liked it just fine. It nothing groundbreaking. It didn't blow me away or anything. It's not a revolutionary new method of storytelling that hasn't been done before. It's a very run of the mill blockbuster in terms of the plot construction, but I haven't actually rewatched the Bumblebee movie since I saw it in theaters in 5 years ago now. So I don't remember if I prefer that movie over this one. I think I prefer this one a little bit more because it has the whole ensemble Transformers cast
yes,
as opposed to
yes,
just Bumblebee being on a solo mission. But uh, so I remember back, you know, even though it's been 5 years, I don't think this was a 5 year production. I think it was a closer to a 3 year production, which is still pretty generous, and I think is generally healthier than trying to like cram all these blockbusters together in a 2 year cycle or
yeah.
less.
Also,
Because this is an almost
bear in mind we lost two
good.
years of that to COVID, so
Maybe, yeah. Well, it was a $200 million budget, which is insane, but it's pretty in line with these other movies. And there was a lot of articles coming out, I think, in 2020 of how, they were shooting in South America, and the lot of the money that was spent on the production went to actually improving the infrastructure of the area to facilitate the filming of it. So you had like they paid for like roads to be reconstructed and shit like that.
ooh,
And so apparently the film being where it was in South America was actually a huge boon to the economy, and the locals actually really appreciated the film being there. Allegedly, that maybe they secretly hated it, but according to the press, they liked it. They liked the fact that Transformers had come to their country to be a big economic boom, supposedly. But um, I cannot begin to tell you how much of a breath of fresh air this movie is compared to the Michael Bay movies, because if we point out like every single thing that doesn't work about the Michael Bay movies, this one fixes all of them. So I kind of have it like an itemized list here. So the the things that don't work in the Michael Bay movies are, at least um where did I put this?
I'm
Yeah,
kind of
irritating human characters who are either poorly written, annoying, racist, or misogynist, incomprehensible cinematography, nonsensical plot construction, and excessive post 9/11 American patriotism. And this movie didn't have any of those things. So
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, it's a huge win just on those merits alone. Um,
and like Bree says in chat, this movie actually had the Transformers in it.
yeah, and it was actually pretty balanced as far as having like well-written human characters and actually having the Transformers on screen. Oh my god, yeah, the jump cuts. That's another big thing. So all that I wanted out of this movie was like likable, well-written human characters and action that's actually comprehensible. And so this movie had a lot of like continuous shots where a lot of complex choreography is happening, and all of it is visible on this big wide shot. And those look fantastic. Like they're all in the trailer. A lot of the best shots they just like most blockbusters these days. They just blow their load in the trailer and show you all the
Yeah.
good shots right up front. But if you want an idea of what the film is going to be like, the trailer is a good indication at the very least. And but did you have a comment on that before I get into the human characters?
We're kind of in the same boat. You were not having rewatched Bumblebee yet. We wanted to kind of brush up and see how things are doing in this live action Transformers universe versus the Bayverse. We wanted to marathon all of them, but our work schedules just didn't line up. So we're like, okay, let's just watch The Last Night, because that's the last of the Bayverse films. Neither of us have seen that. And then let's watch Bumblebee, and then go watch the new one. Last Night, like, I haven't seen the others in quite a while. I think I've seen Revenge of the Fallen enough to remember most of the points about it. It was one of those that when I was living on my own, it was just basically, like, perpetually playing in the background when I wasn't watching The Dark Knight on repeat. So... yeah, when I lived on my own, I needed background noise, and that was my background noise of choice. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen or the Dark Knight. But The Last Night is a horribly put together movie. Like, I'm not even mad about the plot, but as a movie, like, it was unwatchable with how bad the jump cuts were. The cinematography was the cinematography itself wasn't bad. It was the editing was scheisse. Like,
Yeah.
I want to use like worse words, but I don't want to get demonetized. But it was horrible. Like, I'm an amateur video editor, and I can edit better than they did with this movie. The most egregious parts were when they would cut to this exact same shot with the exact same characters in the exact same pose. Like, I know the jump cuts are stylistically a thing.
It's like a shot that cuts to itself, where it's like a near identical composition.
Yes, and like the scene specifically that I'm talking about was this one guy. Some soldiers just got blown up, and these two guys are arguing. One of them says, "Those were my soldiers," and then it cuts to the exact same frame, and then the commander guy shoves the other dude. Like, there was no need to jump cut that. That should have been one shot. Let it go for 2 seconds longer. Like,
yeah.
I mentioned this to you over text, but did you ever watch the Nostalgia Critic review of Moulin Rouge back in the day?
I'm sure I did back in the day, yeah.
Well, there's one joke he makes where it says, find a shot that lasts more than 5 seconds, and he has a timer going for every time there's a jump cut somewhere else, and eventually the timer just self-destructs from how many jump cuts there were, and I'm like, that's what watching this movie felt like, from start to finish. Just yeah. No, terrible. And
it seems like it's one of those where they didn't have a good take. They tried to manufacture a good take in post, and it just didn't work. And the editor was like, I don't know, man.
It felt like we're watching the commercial for 2.5 freaking hours. Actually, I think the movie's actually 2 hours and 45 minutes if we include credits, but still, like, holy crap, it was terrible.
Yeah, I'll say one thing about The Last Night, which is that I never saw it, and I probably never will at this point. I really have no reason to.
You don't need to.
And it was, I remember when I saw Age of Extinction, I was like, you know what, that was goofy and over the top, and I kind of like it. It was really dumb, and I had fun with it, and it was kind of like, it was a nice palate cleanser from the second and third ones, which were just really bad. And so I was almost like, you know what, you could just take the first movie and have Age of Extinction be a direct continuation of that, and just change it to where they're talking about the fight in that movie instead of the, Chicago Battle from Dark of the Moon or whatever. So I was looking forward to like.
I always thought Dark of the Moon was like the best of the original first three. At least I liked it the best.
Well, we definitely disagree on that, but we can get to that later.
To be fair, it's also been several years since I actually watched it all the way down. But if nothing else, I think the action sequences, and I thought the story that actually involved the Transformers was good. And, Leonard Nimoy almost never turns out a bad performance. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Leonard Nimoy is the only good thing about Dark of the Moon. That's a fact.
The only good thing about The Dark Knight was Cogman. Like, he is the only consistent funny part of the movie. And Agent Simmons, he is in all the Bayverse films, if I recall correctly. He's the only part that is absolutely consistently of at least decent quality throughout all 5 movies. And if nothing else, He's entertaining, as opposed to most of the rest of the humans.
Yeah.
But the rest of The Dark Knight, or not The Dark Knight, The Last Night is just No, just no. And honestly, I can fix like the big plot. The big reason Optimus comes back as Nemesis Prime. He goes back to Cybertron, and he gets found by Quintessa, the creator goddess of the Transformers. So they're kind of like going with the angle of the Quintessons created the Autobots and Decepticons, which that's fine. But it turns out Earth is Unicron. And she says that we are going to destroy Earth by absorbing its core, and we're going to revitalize Cybertron with it. And Optimus is just like, okay, and just goes along with it. And he's got this whole thing of, I'll do anything to protect my home, I'll do anything to resurrect Cybertron. I'm over here like, wow, Optimus from Transformers Devastation would love a word with you, sir. But, you know, he was like so bloodthirsty and just like, I'll kill anyone who gets in my way. And I'm not one who thinks that Optimus should be a pacifist, but hearing Optimus say kill that many times just puts you in a bad mood, you know?
Well, there's actually a really famous clip of Peter Cullen at a convention where he's like, you know, Peter Cullen has a lot of authority over how Prime is characterized, because he essentially is that character.
He is like, Optimus Prime.
From the G1 continuity and from like the 2007 movie onward, when he started reprising the role, he has a lot to say over how that character is characterized, because he's kind of irreplaceable in a lot of instances, unless they do decide to cast somebody different because it's a different take on the character or whatever. But and he is a famous clip of him at a con where he's like, there was just one line that it just didn't sound like Prime. I just didn't like it, and it was like, we'll kill them all. And it's like he's like, I hated that line. I just didn't think it was right for Optimus at all.
And, like, that's its own discussion point, but I actually have a way to fix that whole thing with The Last Night immediately. What you should do is you should actually explain what Unicron is, and what you should have here is Optimus joins with Quintessa not to destroy the Earth, but to stop Unicron from being resurrected, because Unicron is like the big end game of a few different Transformers series, including the newest movie. Unicron is like a universe-ending level threat, so having Unicron show up, or not show up, having him like get teased that he is coming, but he's never going to show up because that series is canceled. You know, they really should have emphasized why Unicron is important, and that actually would have made for an interesting, like, kind of divide of ideologies and conflict here, because Optimus is like, this great darkness is coming, it's Unicron, he's going to destroy the universe, and instead of just being, yeah, I'm just going to destroy Earth, you know, to just resurrect things just because some squid lady told me to.
I mentioned this in the text review for Rise of the Beast, though. I talking about Unicron, I said that there's very few. It's very hard to implement him right, because as a concept, he's so over the top that you can easily like get people disappointed if you don't do it right, because, you know, most people's take on Unicron is that he's this cosmic horror thing that kind of just represents inevitability. And if
I'm not mistaken, like, in a few different Transformers continuities, he is a singularity point. Like, he actually exists as a single entity across all timelines, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, what's funny is, that's kind of where I was going with in Cybertron, also known as Galaxy Force. His collapsed, his destroyed body and his collapsed spark creates a black hole.
Oh dear.
And Vector Prime, who is basically a Time Lord in that series, he can see all the way, you know, into the future, and he's like, there's a point in time in which I can't progress any further in time. I just see the black hole and nothing else. And he's like, and I realize why. It's because it's the end of time itself. And I remember watching that as, you know, a 15-year-old or whatever, and being like, holy shit, dude, that's intense. And so, like, the attitude of, like, Unicron is this inevitable... He as a concept is the end of creation, or the anti-creation. He's like the end of existence in itself. Is like, it's a cool theme, but it's like, how do you make that make sense?
How do you stop it and make it believable? So
yeah, how do you put that in a movie and be like, hey, yeah, this planet eater this Galacticus knockoff is the end of time. Literally is the end of time. Like, how do you do that? And yeah, it's intense. So the way they implemented Unicron in this movie, I thought was fine. I mean, it's like it's whatever because um, I kind of prefer the way it was done in the '86 movie, where it's like um, Unicron's loyalists almost become like a third faction, and the Autobots and Decepticons almost have to band together to defeat him. And it's almost like the threat with Unicron can only exist. This is the case in Armada as well, where it's like the threat of Unicron can only exist as a way to unite the otherwise warring factions together against a greater threat.
Yes.
Whereas that doesn't happen here. Apparently, the war with the Decepticons is still happening on Cybertron, and Prime is sitting on his ass, angry about it on Earth, and is not able to do anything about it. And so he's like, "Oh, great! Unicron and his people show up," which also implies that Scourge is a separate entity from whoever the hell Unicron turns into Scourge in the '86 movie. I think it was Skywarp or Thundercracker.
It was Thundercracker.
Yeah.
I lost. No, I don't know if you're watching this on my end. That was Megatron X, which is basically if Megatron sprouted wings and got the metal cap from Mario 64, and he has 2 HP bars. Yeah. So, yeah, I lost the final round. You're not allowed to lose that fight. You only get one shot. All right, so let me catch up chat real quick. Bree says conversations in the new movie were more believable. Absolutely. All right, Matt 2. Let's see. Didn't know Black Arachnia had a vehicle mode. Black Arachnia doesn't have a regular transmetal form. She was just a reskin in this game just to pad out the roster. I'll show you that here in a second. Tried to establish bad takes of your voice acting plenty of times before. Still isn't the best, but you operate on a budget. Yeah, you're not like some big multi-million Hollywood movie. And again, it's a live action shot, and it's one that could have easily been a full longer take. It's like you shoot 3 seconds, and then you decide to shoot another short 3 seconds instead of doing just one big 6-7 second long take. It's just sloppy movie making. The opera scene in The Last Night was hilarious. Like, there's one part where the musical score is like building up, and then the characters pause and they turn and they see Cogman, like the British Transformers, over there playing an organ, and then he pauses and then like, "You're ruining the moment." He's like, "I'm making the moments more exciting." I'm like, that was actually funny. I love it when they do stuff like that. But Prime is one of the 13, so the modern Transformers lore also technically includes Quintessons. Yes. Singularity things no longer canon after the shrouding. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not very well versed in the extended Transformers lore.
Yeah, that's a comics thing.
Transformers fan club was shut down, so everything they added to the lore is gone. I don't get why it was shut down as a whole, because they should have just shut down, or they could have just shut down BotCon, or even merged into HasCon. And it's alright, Isaac is back. Welcome back. Yeah, my Transformer knowledge basically begins and ends with G1, Beast Wars, Some Robots in Disguise 2001, or Car Robot, as it is known in Japan, a little bit of Armada, a little bit of comic book lore from watching Rodimus Primal on YouTube. He does like a bunch of really good Transformers videos, and also the live action films. So that's where my knowledge begins and ends. Very bare basic, but I just haven't had time to get into the rest of them. The next Transformers series we're watching is Transformers Animated, because I've been wanting to watch that one for a while. That was Bree's favorite growing up, and I already showed her all of Beast Wars, so let's watch Animated.
Animated is so good, and it has honestly no right to be as good as it is. So the thing about Animated is, like, it was released in 2008, right after the first live-action movie, and in terms of tone and aesthetic, it couldn't be any further from that movie. It's so different, and so that kind of took people back for a while, because it was like, well, hang on, this is nothing like the live-action movie. And then
this is actually good.
when people actually watched it, they were like, well, this is actually really good, because like the cartoony animation allows the Transformers to move very fluently, and for the the transformation animations and the fight choreography to be really
Okay.
fluent and dynamic.
Pin on that. I
And
have a point for that here in a second.
what's that?
Talking about the transformation being fluid and all that. The last night specifically, like all of the Transformers were doing like these weird parkour breakdancing things whenever they transform for no reason. Like I get that they have to make it look flashy, and we have had that a couple times with some characters. Like RC did it in Rise of the Beasts, but she's a motorcycle. That makes a little more sense. But we're talking like these cars and these Hummers and all that doing this like backflip after you get into robot mode, or you have to like do this weird breakdance thing to stand up straight. And I'm like, this is where you're pouring your animation budget.
Oh yeah, but animated it has a really witty writing and good story and dialogue, and Prime is voiced by David Kaye in that, who voiced Megatron for the past like 5 series prior to that.
Yep.
And he does a good job. And then the way they handled Megatron, without spoiling anything, in animated, is he's like this. He's huge and imposing and is way more powerful than Prime or any of the Autobots. But then he becomes like this elusive, shadowy figure for the majority of the first season, and he's just kind of like scheming in the shadows, and it's really interesting. Animated has my favorite iteration of Blitzwing. Blitzwing in animated is just hilarious. Speaking of Blitzwing,
yeah. He's got the rotating head, like a Quintesson, where he just flips around to like 3 different personalities.
Yeah, and that ends up being a really funny way in which they deal with him. There's like, again, the way the fights are in animated is like, you'll have like all 4 or 5 Autobots on one Decepticon because they're that much stronger than them. And so it's like the whole team trying to just outsmart Blitzwing. And I think it was Prowl or somebody. They're fighting over a frozen lake. And Prowl is like trying to antagonize Blitzwing, and he gets him to transform into his tank mode from Jet and crash through the ice into the lake. It's really funny.
Makes sense.
But
Isaac, Sir Isaac, yeah, go ahead and tell us about the standalone volumes. He's talking about his manga collection. He asked if we wanted to know what the differences were. So, I'm pretty sure that. Go ahead.
Do you mind if I go ahead and talk about the my thoughts on the human characters in Rise of the Beast, which is the next part of my breakdown of it?
Yes, go ahead. But one thing, right quick, you see I'm on the character select screen right now. I actually want to show off like some of the other characters that you can play as that aren't shown here. One of them,
it hasn't loaded that part yet for me. It's still on your like the credits scene, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or is this the character select screen?
Yeah, just like scrolling side to side. See him there?
No, it
No?
hasn't loaded that part of the stream for me yet.
Okay. Well, so I already made mention that the characters you can select, you can have like just different color palettes of your characters, and then you can have reskins of them as separate characters, like Tigatron Ravage for Cheetor, and for Tarantulas you get Black Arachnia, and then for Waspinator you get his non-transmetal color scheme, voiced by Starscream.
Which Starscream?
G1 Starscream. Like it's because in one episode of Beast Wars, Starscream possessed Waspinator.
Chris Latta Starscream? I thought he was dead at that point.
Not the same actor, but the same character. It's G1 Starscream possessing...
you said voiced by Starscream, and I said, which Starscream voice?
I phrased that poorly. It's like, it's still Waspinator's body, but the voice is Starscream's voice. Or the voice is of the Starscream
Beast Wars
character.
Starscream voice.
Yes.
Right?
The character...
Okay.
There was no Starscream in Beast Wars. It was G1 Starscream, followed them back in time, and possessed Waspinator. And this is an homage to that, so...
Interesting.
But yeah, so your thoughts on the human characters for Rise of the Beasts. Go ahead.
Okay. So this to me was one of the most important things I liked about this movie compared to the Bay movies. All right, so the main character is such a such a breath of fresh air compared to Shia LaBeouf's character, for example, because everything that was wrong with Shia LaBeouf is not a problem for this guy in terms of writing or theming. So, first of all, he is um he's poor, which makes for he has like good motivations that we can relate to because he's just trying to take care of his family.
Indeed.
And so he's not an only child. He's not white. He doesn't come from a rich family because if you look at the house that the Witwickies own in the first Transformers movie, they're fucking rich. The house they own is like it's in like, rich area California. That house is probably easily $500,000 in 2007 money. They're fucking rich. And that is, and then Sam is an only child, and he doesn't have any natural gifts or talents. He's whiny, a bit of a coward, is a bit entitled, and the only reason why the Autobots have anything to do with him is he just happened to be related to the guy who discovered Megatron via the glasses, right? Our character in this movie is a minority. He's poor. He has actual talents that make him related to it would make him useful to the Autobots. He's a veteran, so there's a precedent set for him to be courageous, and he was a like radio comms expert, so he's familiar with technology, which also makes him a good fit. And just in writing and in themes and like politically too, just a much better protagonist. And then let's see, he doesn't discover the Autobots like through some magical destiny that he has. It's because he just happened to be in the wrong place at the right time, or the right time in the wrong place, however you want to put it. Where he was trying to steal Mirage because he was resorting to theft out of desperation to try to take care of his family. And the patriotism and everything that was so over the top in the Michael Bay movies, that's nowhere to be found here because the military fucked this guy. Like he's a veteran and they're not taking care of him. He's still trying to make ends meet even as a veteran, and that couldn't be further from the pro-military attitude of the Michael Bay movies. So that was just like a really that was very refreshing to see that. And then there's a scene with him and his brother on the train where he's like, no, we're alone in this. Nobody's looking out for us. We're doing this on our own. And I'm like, that sucks, but that feels real. That feels very real compared to what real people actually go through. And so I found it like believable. Let's see. And the reason why he stays with the Autobots after Prime is like, get rid of him. We don't need humans on the team. He gives Prime a bunch of sass. He's like, bro, you couldn't even protect your family, your team, your home planet. What makes you think that I'm going to stand down and let you do the work for mine?
Yeah, because
it's like
just died right in front of him.
Yeah, dude has got a point, and so it's like, I can't help but find that just more endearing. Like he sasses up to Optimus Prime and is like, you're gonna have to get try to get rid of me because I have a vested interest in taking care of my people. And there's a little bit of drama when he's getting ready to leave for Peru, and he unfortunately has to reveal to his brother that who Mirage is. And I thought that scene was gonna be a little bit cringy because I'm like, oh god, they're redoing the scene from the first movie where it was Sam's parents, the Autobots are trying to hide from his parents and everything.
Yeah.
But instead it was the subtle wink and nod at the audience to be like, hey, he doesn't have to go. He doesn't have to go to Peru. He could stay here and take care of his brother and his mother, which is what he really cares about. So he's kind of at odds with this choice to be like, yeah, I'm going to leave my family behind, who's counting on me to take care of them, to go fight with these alien robots, and I might die in the process. You know.
Yeah.
The other human character, Elena, she took a minute to warm up to me because I thought some of her acting was a little bit stilted. Like I couldn't figure out what she was going for. But she kind of warms up as the movie goes on because she is able to like be in her element, you know, discovering ancient artifacts and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I don't mind her. And she also was like, you know, courageous, and there's some good theming with her too, where um, a lot of it is very subtle. It's not very on the nose. So, like in her establishing scene, you see in the museum where her boss, who is like this just preppy bitch, is like, they want to get a second opinion on these artifacts, and so she tells them everything, and then her boss is the one that goes over there and explains it all.
She's like, so I figured
and
it out.
so, go ahead.
The line was like she takes what she said, then turns around. So I figured it out what it is, and then she starts explaining it as if she's the one that discovered it. So
Yeah, and there's like some subtle commentary there too, where it's like the way she rolls her eyes at her boss, like taking over that explanation for her, was like very telling. And maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into it, but I think there was some intentional theming going on there with
I absolutely agree. It was absolutely intentional.
And there was some subtlety with where the filmmaking did some show don't tell that I appreciated. So the only reason why she has access to the artifact that contained the first key was the fact that her boss said, "Hey, press my uniform," and she left her badge with the access to the thing on her uniform. That's how she got in there. It took the unintended second viewing to catch that. But then as well with when Noah goes to the hospital with his brother, the administrator, who's like, "You owe us the bill," blah blah blah. Like, there's a establishing shot of her looking over the desk of her of whoever's at the front desk, pretty much, and she looks up from whatever she's looking down at Noah as he's coming in the door, and it's like you would miss that because you don't know who that is until they start talking. So you would miss that on the initial viewing, but I unfortunately had to watch it twice, so I caught that. Do you have any thoughts on the human characters before I move on?
Let me catch up on the chat real quick. Concept art for the blank pages where the chapters change. That's really cool. I love it when a manga does like behind the scenes stuff in the downtime. Matt too says that Michael Bay's jingoism would be better suited for G.I. Joe, which we'll get to that point later. But
ironic.
Yeah, Isaac also says there's a shorter version of Oracle Seasons published by Shogaku. I don't know how to pronounce that name, and I'm also trying to keep my eye on the game at the same time. Never published anywhere else, but it was in Oracle Seasons and Ages, like in the compilation version. That's really cool. I love when you can get additional content there. As for human characters, yeah, I thought it was pretty relatable. The whole just trying to watch out for your family and friends and all that. But honestly, when it comes to Transformers, I don't care about the humans. I'm here for the robots. So I'm looking at them, I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting attached to any of you. You are not what I objectively care about coming into this movie. I am here for the robots. So show me the robots, please.
Yeah. And I agree, but I also know that like they're going to force the human characters on me regardless, so they might as well be good.
I can concur with that, but I honestly think that Transformers as a movie would do best if it didn't have an audience proxy. Like Godzilla King of the Monsters. I think so far of the most recent Godzilla films, it's been the best one because the humans played a far smaller role than they did in Godzilla 2014 and Godzilla vs. Kong. If you're coming to watch a Godzilla movie, you're not here for the humans. You are here to watch Godzilla fight other giant monsters. Same with Transformers. I am not here for the humans and their subplots and their patriotism and their social commentary. I am here to watch robots blow the snot out of each other over a war for Cybertron.
Yeah.
I think that's one reason why I love
Beast Wars
most people
feel that way.
I think that's one reason why I love Beast Wars so much, because while there are technically, like, proto-humans in there, they're, like, cavemen. Like, they don't exist as humans. There's no, like, modern day, or at the time modern day, like, you know, impact on the surroundings and environment. It's just the Transformers. It's called Transformers. I am here for Transformers. Like, that's the simplicity of it. That's what I want. I signed up for giant robots. I want to see the giant robots. That's what should take up the majority of the screen time. You know.
Yeah. The War for Cybertron games also do a good job of, like, there's no humans, so you don't have to worry about that there as well. But and a fair bit of the comics as well. There's no humans to be seen. But yeah, I wasn't mad about that because, like I said, I knew they were going to do it anyway. So I was like, they might as well be good characters. I just don't think we're going to have a live action Transformers movie because at that point it's like there's no reason in having it be live action.
Yes.
Which there has been talks about a like G1 origin story animated movie coming out soon. Have you heard about that?
Is that Transformers 1 or is that something else?
I don't know what it's called, but yeah, that's the rumor going around right now.
Honestly, that was Bree's largest criticism of the live action films. The fact that they're live action. What she liked best about Transformers was that it was animated.
Yeah.
In general, she just prefers animation to live action as well, and I can't say I entirely disagree.
I get that, but I think in concept, there's something really cool about, like, can you imagine if you were just walking down the street and that car just transformed? You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. Like, I like that they do it, even though the series' best works have always been animated. So,
yeah. Matt too asks if we've talked about how the Beast Wars voice actors keep getting short in recent years. I wasn't aware of that. I was gonna say, who'd you say voice Optimus and animated again? David K.
David K.
Okay, so funny story about that. Did you know that when they were doing the auditions for Beast Wars, Gary Chalk actually wanted to voice Megatron and David K. wanted to voice Optimus Primal, but they ended up getting assigned to the opposite roles.
That's funny. So it must have been like a long time coming where he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna finally get to voice Prime now.
Matthew, the camera is dizzying. Yeah, sorry about that. This is the only way I can consistently actually stand a chance without a lot of practice, which I am not taking the time to do at the moment. I'm just flying in circles at Starscream, just trying to bum rush, my opponent, which is Cheetor in this case. And this particular stage is surrounded by columns of rocks, and the ground is like rock floor texture, so it's kind of like dizzying if you're spinning rapidly like I am. So it is kind of hard on the eyes. I'll definitely give you that. What do we think about the G.I. Joe ending? We'll get to that in a little bit. Did they switch roles in the Unicron trilogy? David K. and
no, so Gary Chalk and David K. continue to play the same roles from Beast Wars all the way through Armada, Energon, and Cybertron.
Yep.
And animated is when David K. voices
Optimus.
Prime.
Yes. Okay. Beast Wars 2 apparently takes place in the far future after humanity went extinct or something. Ooh, I didn't know that's when Beast Wars 2 took place. Oh dear. Sir Isaac says that the camera reminds him of Castlevania Judgment. I need to play that again. I've only played it a little bit. That game's got a killer soundtrack.
I believe it.
Yeah. But it's hard to find a Castlevania game that does not have a good soundtrack. But, yeah, that's basically all I have. Yes, I thought they played the roles well enough, and I get what they're going for with each one. I thought the roles that were assigned were well enough. I thought the characters were identifiable enough. But again, you're asking me to care about something that I don't inherently care about. So I'm going to be a little bit harsher on it. It's mostly just a thing of I am here for something else, not this. So
yeah, I get that, and there's not really a way that they could have written those characters better to have changed your mind.
Nah, it was a losing battle from the get-go, And again, I don't think they were bad. It's just not what I wanted. They're just they're there, and I just want to like do the meme where it's like push them aside and then just find what's behind that, which that's where the Transformers are. One thing that I actually think is kind of funny is that they like effectively killed Bumblebee like early on. It's like, oh, you've been the poster boy for Transformers since 2007. Die.
Yeah, I was like, he'll come back because like they show in the trailer him with his off-road mode, and I'm like, whatever, he'll come back. This movie does what I would love to call Bumblebee blue balling, which is they don't give us cool Bumblebee scenes until the very, very end, and then when they do, it's like just perfection. Like his re-entry was just so damn cool.
I will say I would have picked a different song instead of that song, whatever it was. They should have played Dare. Like, they had the touch in the previous one. They should have played Dare for his re-entrance there.
Oh, man. It's funny you mention that because I was actually really hoping to hear that song in this movie going in. But in hindsight, it would have cheapened the experience a little bit. Well, no, I would have liked to have heard it, but I liked the score and I liked the licensed music. I feel like all the hip-hop was actually really on brand for this. And a unique thing that they did that I don't see a lot of other, like, blockbuster type movies do is they keep the licensed music playing during the set pieces, and they don't like switch over to the score. So like even though Bumblebee is like here kicking ass, they're still playing hip hop, and I just think that I was just like, all right, I'm down for this. Like I don't find that I find that pretty entertaining. I wasn't mad about that at all, especially because like let's be real, 90s hip hop is way better than what's coming out these days. So
a lot of it. Matt 2, Gary Chalk voiced a version of Gutsman. I think that was Mega Man Fully Charged. I know Gary Chalk voiced Dr. Light in that, which that actually was a nice surprise when I turn on this new Mega Man cartoon and I hear Optimus Primal voicing Dr. Light. And I'm like, this is different, but it fits. I love this.
So can we talk about Prime's portrayal in this movie? Because I thought it was really interesting. So this is an interesting take on Optimus Prime. So he's almost like this younger, more brash version of himself with a bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Like Transformers Animated?
What? Like which one?
Like Transformers Animated? Or what I've been told about Transformers Animated Prime? Younger,
actually
less experienced.
Closer to Energon, actually. So
Energon? Okay.
Animated Prime is fairly innocent. Like he's inexperienced, but he's not like he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. This Prime has a chip on his shoulder. Like he's pissed that he's on Earth, and he doesn't like humans. He doesn't trust them, and he's like just mad about the whole thing. And I just found that interesting, and
I find that refreshing actually, because it's like, how many times have humans gotten you killed, Prime? Like across the entire Transformers franchise, how many times have the humans gotten you and your friends killed? So I'm okay if Prime doesn't want anything to do with us.
Well, it's more like in all of the other movies, Prime is like all powerful, infinitely wise, and makes no mistakes. Right? Like he's just this. You literally have to
stab him in the back
all-American hero.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like he has to be humbled a little bit, and he has to learn some lessons. And it's really ironic that like when we finally meet up with the Maximals, Optimus Primal says, "I was literally named after you because of all the legends of your heroism," and put a pin in that because that was an interesting line. But it's funny because in that moment, Primal is more the leader that Prime is known for than he is.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Primal is calm and resolved and has got his act together, and he's, like, unshakable. And Prime is like, angry and not, in control of his emotions at that point. And it's like, Primal really kind of put a mirror to him and be like, this is the leader you should be again. This is where my namesake should come from, kind of thing. And I thought that was cool. So
it's like when he met his hero, he ended up crafting the hero he thought he was, is kind of what they were going with.
Exactly, yeah. And like I said, it was just kind of a humbling humbling experience for Prime, which I thought was an interesting way to characterize him, because even in War for Cybertron, which again, I love the story of War for Cybertron to death, and you'll hear me talk about it soon when I'm getting around to the later aspects of the production of the video on it.
Yeah.
But the way that Prime is characterized in War for Cybertron is that Zeta Prime was the leader of the Autobots when Megatron takes control.
Yes.
And so your task in the Decepticon campaign is destroying Zeta Prime. So you beat him, and then there's a power vacuum, and Optimus basically fulfills the role temporarily as a way of pushing back the Decepticon invasion of Iacon, and then afterwards is like fully crowned a Prime. But during the invasion of Iacon, he's acting like the Optimus Prime we all know. And you have other characters like Ratchet and Bumblebee being like, "Man, you're a natural at this. You really are, cut out to be a leader." And he's like, "No, I'm just a soldier. I'm not a leader."
Ultra Magnus.
And he's like, "Oh well, the Autobot High Council will decide the next Prime." And it's like, but he's already saying things that we already know him to say, and he's just acting like all of his line delivery is just very typical Prime. It doesn't seem as it took this movie to realize how to write a more believable version of Prime that like doesn't have his act together, while still being voiced by Peter Cullen, because it's like Peter Cullen might need a little bit more like direction in the booth to like do his character any differently than he's always done. And if he's gonna be the way he's always done, then he's going to sound like that leader we've always known him to be. So it was cool that they went with a different angle there.
Yes.
Also, I see Maestro in chat. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing good.
Oh, hey. Yeah, I focusing on fighting Megatron X. I don't want to lose this one again. Master Chief Snake says he has a buddy who is a fan of Transformers. Well, get him in here in the chat. Let's talk with them too. But I only have things that I think are halfway worth complaining about. I only have two major ones for this movie. The first one is the fact that Rat Trap was non-existent. And the only reason that is a problem is because in Beast Wars, they have Rat Trap explicitly say the line, "What in the name of my great aunt RC is going on here?" And RC was in the movie, and they have the Maximals in the movie, but they don't have Rat Trap.
Yeah.
They should have at least made a nod to that.
My whole point about that is that anybody that goes into this movie wanting a lot of development out of the Maximals is going to be disappointed.
Yes.
And I was fine with it because I feel like the movie was very balanced with what they chose to dedicate their screen time to. But people that are big Beast Wars fan and wanted a lot of screen time of the Maximals are going to be very disappointed, because let's face it, like Rhinox and Cheetor don't do a goddamn thing except fight. Like they barely have any lines at all, and you don't even really get a good look at Rhinox as a robot mode at all.
No, but I will say Rhinox with a Warhammer just feels right. Like something about that is just glorious.
Yeah. But Primal and his characterization I thought was great. Also, again, huge spoilers for chat. Massive spoilers for this movie. Close your ears, what I'm about to say. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When Primal was forced to kill Airraiser, I was not okay. I did not appreciate that. That genuinely made me upset. I was not expecting this movie to actually have like a good emotional pivot like that, but I was like, all right, movie, you earned that. That was rough.
No, they didn't outright say it, but I'm pretty sure the thing that Scourge infected her with was Dark Energon. They don't say that, but I'm fairly certain that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what they say is like
Unicron.
Unicron's like mind control thing, basically, is like, once you're infected with this, you're my servant forever. Which, on that note, I thought it was funny that you get exactly one scene of Unicron like terrorizing Scourge to be like, you better get those keys, better hurry up, bro, because like this Unicron is a lot more patient than 86 Unicron, because you had Orson Welles' fat ass up there being like, Galvatron, you better bring me that fucking Matrix, you idiot, or I'll turn you into space dust. And it's like, um, every 5 minutes he's like hounding him about it, and this this one is like one scene of him like tormenting Scourge, and somebody in chat, Anime Dude, is like, I wish that part was more dramatic. I agree, because in the '86 movie they have all these like flashing lights to simulate Galvatron being like tormented by him, but I guess they didn't want to do that for like photosensitivity reasons.
I did think the whole like how it went all Doctor Strange and reality was like morphing around them, but only they could see it. I thought that was a nice angle. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the whole thing they mentioned that the beacon of the transwarp key can only be seen by Transformers. That's funny, and that's also a good way to kind of hand wave, hey, can't the humans see this? No, they can't. This is why no one's asking questions.
Yeah, so that was a funny observation and not a nitpick. I have two nitpicks though. I have two nitpicks.
My second nitpick, not if we're not including Rat Trap, my second one, Wheeljack. Look how they massacred my boy.
Oh, I wasn't mad about that at all. But I do actually have a comment on that. But Anime Dude was talking about Air Razor's death. I mean, I guess it could have been more dramatic, but like, Primal's like holding her, and he's like, "Oh fuck, man, I don't want to do this," and he just like has to crush her to death, and it just reiterates that line, no matter the cost, and I think that's where. It's almost like him saying that imbued that into Optimus, where Prime would later, have that as a catchphrase.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost. Yeah.
So I have the nitpicks I have, and luckily they're very few and far between with this movie, because I felt like, plot construction wise, this movie was fine compared to its predecessors. But it's never explained why the transwarp key is needed for Unicron to cross the galaxy, because with what we're used to is the dude just floats his fat ass through space and just finds another planet, and the energy consumed in doing so just he just eats a planet, gets refueled, flies to the next planet, repeats the process, and that's all he does, right?
I would say it's. If I had to make a guess...
They say at the beginning, Primal says to... well, actually not Primal, the other Gorilla Maximal says to Scourge, Unicron is trapped in this galaxy forever. I don't know how that's possible. They never explain that.
Well, galaxies are further apart than planets are. So...
right.
You think about it,
but
one thing that...
The dude is immortal, though. Like, if he has to float through space for a couple thousand years before he finds another planet, then whatever. I mean, it doesn't seem like it'd be pretty trivial for him, unless he has to feed on planets that have techno-organic life or organic life, in which case, it might be a little bit more of a problem. But it's never explicitly stated that that's the case either. But anyway, my other nitpick is in Noah's big scene where he gets the Mirage bot suit and gets to fight Scourge. You are telling me that these kids can communicate with each other via walkie-talkie when one of them is in Peru and the other one is in New York City? Really? I don't buy that.
I just kind of interpreted that as Mirage like patched it into his long-range communications. That was the only way that was the only way I made sense of that as well. It's like, it's just space robot magic, but whatever. It was just very silly. Like I was saying, I think that people that went into this expecting the Maximals to have a lot of development were going to be disappointed. It's pretty much just Primal that has like a meaningful character arc, and the rest of them are just their Ape Link. That's him, yeah. The rest of them are just there to fight, and their fight is great.
I want to talk about the Terracons for a minute as well. So having only 3 of them is kind of lame, but their designs are awesome. I love Scourge's design. Battletrap might be my favorite design in the whole movie. Dude has a wrecking ball and a minigun, and just shrugs off like automatic fire like it's nothing. Like everybody's shooting at him, just dumping clips into him, and the dude just walking it off like it's nothing. Um, yeah, Battletrap's fucking cool. But the thing that's with Scourge that I thought was weird was um, his dialogue. So I had to look it up. He's voiced by Peter Dinklage, and
Really?
I like Peter Dinklage a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just thought his line delivery was just a little awkward, and some of his lines are really corny. And it was almost like, what if we just did like Ultron from Marvel, but again, and just made him really corny instead of kind of witty and silly like Ultron was. And I'm like, I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. Some of his dialogue was just a little bit silly, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. Because the way that I'm used, there's 2 different versions of Scourge that I come to mind when I think of Scourge. It's the G1 version,
And then the Robots in Disguise
and
version.
it is, huh?
And then the 2001 Robots in Disguise version.
No, I'm not as
No.
familiar with that one. The one that comes to mind for me is the Cybertron version,
Oh.
which he is basically the ambassador of the Beast planet for the Decepticons, and he transforms into a dinosaur in that, I believe. Like he's basically Beast Wars Megatron, but in the Cybertron show, and he's really powerful, and it makes sense for him to be like a threat when he's allied himself with the Decepticons, and it makes for good drama. In the Cybertron show, when you have like the Autobots trying to make allies on all the different planets that are that have Cybertronian life on them, and then Scourge is like, "No, I'm going to be with the Decepticons." But I just don't remember him being written like that. I don't remember him being written with such corny dialogue, and it just was a little bit awkward. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Matt
Nemesis
too
Prime,
in chat.
yes.
Scourge. RID. Scourge is Nemesis Prime. Now I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. That's
he
where he got
recently-
the inspiration for his design in this one. That's why he was a black tractor trailer in this one, because they're paying homage to the reskin of Laser Optimus Prime that they called Scourge in Robots in Disguise. So that's
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna bring up.
There was a recent toy of that just came out that looks really badass. I think it was part of the Legacy line.
But so Wheeljack, I was not a fan of the redesign. Like the thing is, I'm not mad at it. All I can do is just sit there and laugh at it like the nerd it is. But I get that he's the Autobot scientist. But if you're going, Wheeljack has always consistently had a cool design across every single incarnation that I know of. Like, even his G1 self was spectacular looking. So if you're going to make any of the Autobots be the nerd character, it needs to be Perceptor. Like, they should have made a Perceptor instead.
Yeah.
Because even in the G1 movie, he's basically Double D from Ed, Edd n Eddy, but a robot.
Yeah.
So
I didn't mind it as much. I just thought the line where they gave him like a Latino accent, and I thought it was really awkward how like our main character, who's also, I wasn't sure if he was completely Latino, if he's supposed to be like half black, half Latino, because we never see his father. But he's like, "Hey, where'd you get that accent from?" I wanted to speak Spanish to you, and he's like, the line is almost literally like, "Huh? A robot that would have a Spanish accent just to have one? That sounds kind of racist." And it's like, what are you trying to say, movie? Are you just trying to like deflect the criticism up front and then continue to give him the Latino accent? Like, what's going on here? And yeah, it was weird. Like, I don't know what to think of that, but I didn't mind him. It was fine. It was whatever.
Yeah. My criticisms have nothing to do with the character because he didn't have that many lines. It was just entirely with his design. Like, he has seatbelt suspenders. Why?
I guess the reason why the design didn't like shock me like that is I had seen all the discourse around the toy as it was coming out, and apparently they had like updated the design at one point. Like it used to be worse, and they changed it a little bit or something like that. But I already knew what he looked like before the movie, so it didn't like blindside me. But if I didn't know what the toy looked like, and then I saw him in the movie, I might have been like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, this is a wheel check." But I
Yeah.
mean, it's that those kind of things are relatively low hanging fruit because we're kind of spoiled that we have like a G1 accurate Prime and a G1 accurate RC because
And Bayverse accurate Bumblebee.
Mirage looks nothing like G1 Mirage, and you have in the older Michael Bay movies, like you have Ironhide as a black truck and Ratchet as a green rescue vehicle, and people whine and complain about that, but it's just so not important. Like it's just an aesthetic thing. Like you can make these characters look like whatever you want. It doesn't really matter.
If you can make them look like whatever you want, why not make them look cool?
Yeah, which I mean, I think the Bayverse versions of Ratchet and Ironhide look cool. So
Yeah.
um, I think that the more cartoon accurate proportions and faces with this continuity, like the Bumblebee continuity, uh, almost has like a bit of an uncanny side effect
It does.
with some of them. Like RC and Mirage's faces are very cartoon accurate, and
It looks
it
weird
looks
in
a little
3D.
uncanny sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, RC I thought was great, but Mirage is like one of the linchpins of the movie, and he's voiced by Pete Davidson, which like people in the marketing, everybody's like making out to be like a big deal, whatever. And I don't know who the fuck Pete Davidson is. Like I don't care about that. I don't know who he is. I was like kind of whatever about that, but he was fine. He was fun, even though I did make sure to go get Taco Bell breakfast on the way to the movie, which is Pete Davidson did a commercial for Taco Bell breakfast recently, so maybe it was just meant to be.
Right. Let me see. What was I gonna say? RC's guns were basically just Halo plasma rifles from the looks of them. Like she was over there dual wielding those, and just all I could see from the first shots of them, I'm like, she's dual wielding plasma rifles. That's what they look like. That's
Yeah.
not a criticism. I think it's a cool design. I had another point to make, but I don't remember what it was. Nightbird, the third Terrorcon. That's actually kind of an obscure Transformer, if I'm not mistaken. That's from G1. It was like a drone thing that the Decepticons built. I don't remember the exact plot of that episode. I haven't seen it in a good while. But I do know that
Oh, is it?
it's a bit more
Is
of
it like a Laserbeak recolor?
No, it's something else entirely. Yeah, that's Buzzsaw you're thinking about. Ah, dang it. That got hit. But I thought the inclusion
I'm looking it up now.
yeah, the inclusion of a pretty obscure character is always appreciated.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, this is a pretty obscure character. It looks like in a lot of the toy adaptations of her were just a RC recolor.
Yeah.
Um,
So
that's interesting.
on the subject of character designs, why the f did Blitzwing in Bumblebee look like Starscream? Like we have other Seekers and Seeker clones, but Blitzwing was literally just Starscream. But Blitzwing is supposed to be like unique, like a triple changer. You could have at least made him purple. I mean, come on here.
Oh yeah, wasn't he like green or whatever?
No, he wasn't green. He was red. He looked exactly like Starscream, but it was Blitzwing.
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that. That's weird. So funny enough, it's funny you mention that because I was talking about animated Blitzwing earlier.
Yeah.
So after the movie, I did the one thing that you're supposed to do to make every Transformers theater viewing experience complete, which is go to the nearby store and buy one of the toys. And I was like, I'm gonna pretend like it's 2007 again, and the toys are in stores. And I went into the Target that was in the shopping center directly across from the theater, and I was hoping to find Scourge, but apparently Scourge is only available in a Studio Series, and that figure is rare. But I did find the Legacy Blitzwing, which you can't see, but he's on camera right now. I've been opening him and transforming him while we've been talking.
Ah, there it
And
is.
this is what I've been looking for a while. So I'm actually really grateful that I found him because this is one of my on my list to collect, and he just happened to be there in Target. So I was like, hell yeah, I've got birthday money to spend. Let's do this. Um,
Matt two
but
says Matt two says Nightbird was a ninja robot made by humans. Yeah, but she was hijacked by the Decepticons later, wasn't she? I know the Decepticons had control over her at some point. Yes, the Macross inspired Transformers thing, that was a single robot. The VF-1S was remolded into Jetfire and was trying to be brought in with the other toy lines, but due to licensing issues, they couldn't continue using the character as it was, so they had to redeco him for the cartoon, and he was renamed to Skyfire. Oh yeah.
yeah, thanks Harmony Gold.
Yeah.
Fucking Harmony Gold.
Didn't they recently lose their rights to Macross distribution here in the West?
I sure hope they did because I want a Blu-ray of Macross Plus with Bryan Cranston in it.
Yeah, I was low key hoping that Stratosphere would have been Jetfire for this series, just because I love Old Man Jetfire from Revenge of the Fallen. Behold the glory of Jetfire. I think he's hilarious.
I was definitely cringing a little bit at Stratosphere. I won't lie, but I found out that he's voiced by Joe DiMaggio, which is really funny.
I don't know who that is.
It's what is it? Bender from Futurama and Waka from Final Fantasy X and Marcus from Gears of War.
You said Joe DiMaggio, didn't you? I thought it was John DiMaggio.
No, it's Joe DiMaggio, I believe. Yeah.
Am I just off my rocker again?
Anytime, Ace.
Let me see if I can find it. Ah, here we go. Yeah, I found him. Yeah, it's John DiMaggio. You're right.
Okay, but I say I only know the name Joe DiMaggio from one other place, but that's not relevant at the moment, and that's like old. But yeah, John DiMaggio. Okay, there we go. That makes more sense. Yes, I recognize that name. But yeah, I was hoping that he would have been Jetfire because he's like old and clunky and like really big. So I was like, is this Jetfire? Please, just because, like I said, I like Baver's Jetfire. I think he's hilarious.
Well, I also don't know who the hell is Stratosphere? Like that's another like obscure character where they were like, yeah, let's localize this one. He could have just been Jetfire, or he could have been
Cosmos.
I wouldn't have been upset if it was like what the hell is that little red the one that turns into the A10 Warthog. Power Glide. If it was just Power Glide, just make it Power Glide.
Yeah.
Power Glide's supposed to be a microbot, but fuck it. Like, who cares?
The prey has fallen.
So I have to mention the climax here really quick. Unfortunately, they went with a bit of a cliche with the climax. They went with the Sky Portal climax, which everybody makes fun of because it's a bit of a cliche. Like they did it in Man of Steel and in Fan Four Stick, and hell, they did it in other Transformers movies. Like they did it in like Dark of the Moon.
And the last night, they did it in at least two. And if you want to get technical, like it wasn't a portal, but in Revenge of the Fallen, the whole absorbing the sun thing had the same like aesthetic feel to it. You know, shooting a big laser beam into the sky. Yeah. So just enough already.
Yeah, and I will at least give them a pass to where it was well set up by the film prior to that, because it's like the entire plot is like a mad dash to the magical MacGuffin to prevent Unicron from showing up. So it's like, at least it's established from literally the first scene in the movie that that's what the premise is going to be. And it's not just like, oh, suddenly giant beam in the sky, we got to shut off the thing before the world ends, and like, but they still did the cliche, so I have to mention it. I'm like, oh, here we are, Sky Portal ending again. But at least it was fun. I can't I can't knock it too bad. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts looking at my
Looking at the notes
my
you took.
text review here. I pretty much covered everything that I mentioned in the text review. Um, yeah, that's about it.
The prey has fallen.
I'm kind of in the same boat with you. It was fine as it was, but nothing really groundbreaking. I don't really know how it holds up compared to Bumblebee because I need to rewatch Bumblebee. I did think Bumblebee had a couple of really, really good, like, memorable moments in it. And I definitely think that the human interactions felt more natural than they did in the Bayverse films. I do like how, like, I kind of had an epiphany during that movie when Optimus says to Bumblebee, no more drive-in movie theater for you, when he has the exact lines to quit back at him with. It just kind of occurred to me. The way Bumblebee talks through the radio, it's not literally using broadcasts. He's recording it on a tape and playing back the segments he needs.
Yeah.
That, like, I can't believe I didn't pick up on that before. Or even if that's not how they intended it, that way makes way more sense.
So the I was really happy with some of the movie lines that he quotes, because he quotes like what is it, a few good men. He's like, you can handle the truth, and then he did the, I wish he did the full quote where he's like, I am here to kick ass and chew bubble gum.
And I'm
And
all
I'm
out of bubble
all
gum.
out of gum. And he didn't do the whole line. He just did the I'm here to kick ass part, which was fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wanted the whole line.
That's Duke Nukem, isn't it? Or hasn't it like been referenced in Duke
So
Nukem?
it's Duke Nukem quoting somebody else. I don't remember the original.
Oh, okay.
I'll find it really quick. Oh, it's Roddy Piper from what movie? They Live, from the movie They Live. Yep.
So,
And that's definitely, like, Duke Nukem is definitely referencing that directly, because the dude is standing here with a pair of identical sunglasses holding a shotgun before he says that.
yeah. So, question that I have about G1 Jetfire. The original toy, because it was a Skull 1 VF1S, did it have a Guardian mode, or is it strictly robot and jet?
You can Gerwalk it, yeah.
Yes. You know, you could also Gerwalk Armada, Starscream, and Thundercracker. It's not an official transformation.
Oh
but
yeah, you can.
Because
I have the Legacy Armada Starscream right here, and I was like, can you? You can, yeah. I don't want to, but you can.
I love Robotech. Like, the Macross saga. I love Macross, like the original. I haven't seen many of the others. I've seen Robotech Shadow Chronicles, but I haven't seen much else beyond that. Robotech Battle Cry is such a great game.
I refuse to watch the English Robotech. And I think it's probably unfair because it's probably fine, but I just, knowing what I know about Harmony Gold and Macross, it's just like I'd rather just watch the original Japanese version. Someone in chat was mentioning the Armada PS2 game.
Yes.
That game is great, and that is the first video in my Transformers retrospective series, which you should totally watch because it's a great game. That game has a balls hardest difficulty mode, which I decided to take on in that video, and I managed to beat it for the first time after having played that game since like 2007. And I also have the PS2 Macross game that was Japan only, and I am able to play it on my PS2, and it's also quite good.
Yeah, I have a link to StarCrossedSouls in the both title and description of this video, so should be easy to find. And I died.
I'm really looking forward to opening. So I have it's actually sealed in box. The Classics series Jetfire from like 2005. It's never been opened. I picked it up at a local store.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that one on stream last year sometime. You said
Yeah.
if you could get 100 viewers on stream right now, you'd open it.
I still plan on opening it because that toy is just so damn cool, and I don't have a modern Jetfire. Like there was like a Commander class Jetfire released a couple years ago, and there's like a Masterpiece Jetfire, but like that one is the only one that is a weird hybrid mix between the Macross toy and the cartoon Jetfire. It's like the perfect middle ground. And actually, because we're still getting the Studio Series toys based on War for Cybertron, as I hold up Optimus Prime here to the camera, which you can't see.
Yeah.
The as we continue to get those, I really hope that one of them we get is Jetfire, because I really like War for Cybertron Jetfire, who is voiced by Troy Baker doing an Australian accent for some reason.
Still waiting for
Which
Scott
might have been an
McNeil to come
homage
back.
to Cybertron Jetfire, because he also has an Australian accent for some reason.
Still waiting for Scott McNeil to come back.
Oh, for Scott McNeil.
Yeah.
The prey.
I tell you, that man voiced so many characters in my childhood. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Ready.
I'm looking forward to talking about the cast of War for Cybertron for sure. I didn't realize until recently that Brawl is voiced by Nolan North, and it's like Nolan North doing the goofiest, like gruff accent he can. He's like constantly just growling. He's like, Megatron! Like every single line is like that, and he actually does a pretty good job.
Forgive me.
Speaking of Megatron, I am having some trouble with this one. I'm playing as Air Razor. She's not as sturdy as the other characters I was playing as. I kind of wish I brought the PS2 in here and got it hooked up so I could play that version instead. But this one, I think, is the inferior of the two, or at least I've been led to believe so, so I'm getting this footage out of the way first. Okay, how does Megatron charge up his super blast attack before mine does?
Oh, the N64 version versus the PS1 version.
Yeah. It's got... Oh, come on, really? Yeah, it's like... If you charge up one of your attacks to its maximum, then it goes into a scripted sequence to where the enemy doesn't get to move. They have to stand there and tank it. The problem is you can't move while it's charging, so you just have to know when to release it properly. And apparently I can't get the timing down right, but Megatron is able to get it perfectly in like 3 seconds. And he just scrapped me with 2 shots. But yeah, the PS1 version versus the N64 version. So I'm getting footage of this one out of the way first. So that way I can play the new one as a newer experience later.
Gotcha.
Videos that I want to do...
But what other...
Go ahead.
I guess if we're done talking about Rise of the Beast, what other projects are you working on right now?
Right now, the next one that I'm doing... I actually have 2 recorded, and I have the footage for it that I need to just sit down and edit. Rio and I did a... we reacted to some really, really trashy reviews of Mega Man games from G4's X-Play segment. It's just like, they shouldn't review video games. It feels like I was watching Conan O'Brien trying to be the angry video game nerd, but they weren't allowed to swear. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, X-Play was really bad. Well, they were really bad to specifically Japanese games, and it was something that came to light really recently because... Adam Sessler was out there showing his ass on Twitter, and everybody was like, "This you?" and just like going through all of the like awful takes and like really racist things he said when that show was on the air.
Yeah, we caught like 1 or 2 of those during our review, or not review, but our reaction. The other one that I have...
it's really funny because obviously I'll be doing eventually somewhere down the line I'll be doing a retrospective on all the Yu-Gi-Oh video games as well. And Adam Sessler infamously said about the Yu-Gi-Oh like World Championship games, it's like he put it in a segment called "Game Franchises That Need to Die," and it's that's genuine journalism right there.
Yeah.
That's definitely a review that's done in good faith towards the product.
Yeah, we skimmed that one because Mega Man was in that segment, and none of the like I can count on one hand the number of like objectively valid like criticisms they levied at a Mega Man game, other than just it's the same thing over and over again. Play something else. The one time I will say that they actually said something valid was when they're talking about which collection do you want to buy, PlayStation 2 versus GameCube. Get the PS2 version because the GameCube controller is weird. And I was like, okay, that's fair. That's actually very fair. And I have a couple games that I would rather play another console than GameCube because the controller itself is strange. But the other one we have on the back burner at the moment is an art roast of like all the concept art they included in the Battle Network Legacy collection. Some of these are like really silly, so we're just going through like giving some playful jabs at them, or talking about ones that we find were particularly better or just good in general, and then laughing at the ones that are really silly. Just a couple of little quick small videos to do. And then the big project that I have that I'm working on the script writing for, all of the unused entries from the big Colossal Iceberg project. You know, we had to trim the fat somewhere, so I'm taking all of those entries that didn't make the cut, and I'm doing just a quick like flyby on these, like what are my thoughts on them, why they didn't end up on the final chart, etc. Working on the script for that at the moment. I think I'm roughly halfway done with the script, and then once you get the script, recording it shouldn't be a problem, and then editing will be pretty quick because it's a lot less formulaic than the other Iceberg videos, so it shouldn't require as much effort and time in editing. So I really just need like 1 or 2 good afternoons of just solid work, and then I should be able to get it up hopefully soon.
Gotcha.
Let's see.
With the live action segment recorded today for the War for Cybertron video, that will hopefully be posted within the next 2 weeks, I would hope.
Good.
And then I'll just have to record the commentary in the evenings after work. Definitely a learning curve to the new job, so to speak. So I'm trying to pace myself and not overdo it. But if I finish up at a decent time and get home at a decent time, I should have time in the evening to do commentary if I don't feel completely worn out. But my method of doing it for this go around is that I will be basically writing the script and recording a commentary segment for it one level at a time, because the problem I seem to have with talking about a lot of these games in like the linear order of their campaign structure is just like sifting through 10 hours of footage of a campaign and having to break it down and being like, oh, in this battle you do this and you fight these guys and you have these weapons available. Isn't that great? And it's like, how do you not get too fatigued out doing that? And so it's just like basically writing the script one level at a time. And so that's going to be my process for getting through the main campaign structure. I also need to record a ton of B-roll of 7th generation games. So like Halo 3 and Gears of War and BioShock and Bulletstorm and maybe some other like RPGs like Nier. Get all those in there. And because there's the whole beginning of this video is going to be just a preamble about the 7th generation and the conditions that allowed War for Cybertron to exist in its current state. But then after that is the next Muso video. So it's Fist of the North Star, Ken's Rage, which I learned yesterday doing the stream that the not having the English version of the game is going to be a pretty huge problem. So I may want to consider tracking down an English copy, or like at least translating all of the menus before I continue recording, because I don't want to be completely unfamiliar with a major mechanic of the game because I can't read the menus. Same thing with Gundam Muso 3. So I know we talked about doing some collabs with that, but it's like I may genuinely want to get an English copy of one of the Dynasty Warriors Gundam games before I approach that, because I'm just so worried that with the Japanese Gundam Muso 3 copy that I have, I'm just not going to be able to comprehend some of the mechanics if I can't read the menus.
So, did you say it was you were doing Gundam Muso 3, or was it Shin Muso Gundam? That one is Dynasty Warriors Gundam Reborn, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I keep getting them confused. It's Gundam Muso 3 is the copy I have.
Okay.
Although I wanted Shin Gundam Muso That's the one I currently have.
The most accessible way to get that is digital download on the PS3 store, which that's how I will eventually be getting it. Hopefully sooner than later, but I don't know if I'll be able to because I heard recent PS3 updates are making it really hard to navigate the PSN store for PS3. But
That's interesting. If it's digitally downloadable, I might go ahead and pick it up then.
yeah, it's like $40 I think plus tax.
Okay, I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, if I still definitely want to help with that. I just need to take time to record that because I'm supposed to get Rio in here. We're actually supposed to co-op those games because they are multiplayer. I'm caught between wanting to live stream them myself because I love the games and I want to play the first one. I've only played the second and third, but also I want to get him in here on this because we were tag teaming Fate Extella playing back and forth. This time we can actually play co-op, and I really want to play this one. So, other small projects that I'm working on the side, I'm trying to get back into editing together the episodes of MS Saga: A New Dawn that we recorded but haven't edited yet because, a couple reasons. It was because we were having a capture issue and I messed up with the audio syncing on the files it rendered, so I had to re-export them, and then I just didn't continue editing the files together. But MS Saga is a Gundam RPG, and we got to the final post-game dungeon, and we've had like a 2-year hiatus on it. So I'm going to finish editing those videos together, then we're going to come back and stream the rest. And then I also want to do some Beast Wars videos, like top 10 episodes, maybe like a series overview, like not episode by episode, but just a here's why it's great, here's where it goes wrong, that kind of thing. And then, of course, talk about the games, which is why I'm recording footage of this right now. Because I love Beast Wars, even with all of its campiness and cringiness that it has at times. It's a great series. It'll make you feel.
Oh yeah, it's like I said in the Armada video. It's like Beast Wars is kind of put on a pedestal by fans as having like some of the best character writing and storytelling in all of Transformers. Even if it is unspeakably ugly.
It gets easier on the eyes when you get to Season 2 because that's when they introduce the Transmetals, which is when they stop looking organic for the most part. Most of them get a more metallic reskin and upgrade, so it's a lot easier on the eyes. That's where I think that's where the animation has its biggest downfall. They don't do organics well, especially hair.
I'm not sure if it was
because
I'm not sure if it is Beast Machines or if it's like Beast Wars Neo or which series it is in Japan, but like it's one that has like Leo Convoy and everything. It has those characters, but the transformation animations from robot to beast are just like it's done with traditional hand-drawn animation, very similar to the RID 2001 style, and it looks amazing. It looks super fluent, and I'm just like, I hate to say it, but the 3D animation was you could say, I mean, I'm not saying that it's just a product of its time. It literally is it's stylistically worse than the traditional hand-drawn animation, even if you ignore the what do you call it?
Limitations.
Yeah, the limitations of the technology at the time. Anyway, on that note, I think I'm probably going to jump off. So it was great being able to catch up and share our mutual thoughts about Rise of the Beasts.
Yes.
It seems like we mostly agree on everything. The movie was good. It was fine. It was just not anything groundbreaking, right?
Yeah. When it comes to Transformers movies, I will always say that the 1986 one is the definitive one, and that's not even me being a G1er. I'm not a G1er. I'm a Beast Wars kid. But that movie is legitimately just great, even with all of its problems. But
86 is the best, and then I have a soft spot for the 2007 Michael Bay one out of nostalgia, but I think objectively, this one might be the best live action one, although it might be close with Bumblebee. But I honestly may think that this movie may be the objectively best live action one. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it again on Blu-ray when it comes out. because I am going to definitely avoid theaters again for a while because
Okay.
holy shit. Yeah, that was not fun.
I'll need to rewatch Dark of the Moon to see if I have a change in opinion, because I always thought Dark of the Moon was actually like one of the best when it came to the live action ones.
Yeah, I'm gonna
If
have to
nothing else,
argue with you for a minute here
if
before I
nothing else
go.
for the combat and for the battle sequences, from what I remember, I will say a lot of the human stuff was kind of dumb and like really
the
forced.
only the only the only fun, even like the only the fun,
Fight.
the only fun action scene even in Dark of the Moon is when Prime shows up with the jetpack at the end and cleans up the whole street, and then there's the fight with Sentinel and Megatron and everything. Every other minute of that movie is insufferable. Every minute of it. It's dark and drab and boring and it takes entirely too long for anything to happen. The human antics are the worst in the whole series. Shia LaBeouf is so insufferable in that movie. He spends so much of the movie being entitled, whining, screaming, beating up the smaller robots that are weaker than him, and you have like the his love interest is not interesting. You know, Michaela is more interesting as a character.
You know, you know
The
the only
Victoria's
reason
Secret model they hook him up with in this one is not interesting.
the only reason they
And
replaced her was because Michael Bay and Megan Fox had a fallout, which she came back for Ninja Turtles, so confusion.
they
But yeah,
they
that's the
didn't
reason.
just have a fallout. Megan Fox uh Megan Fox basically called Michael Bay Hitler.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it's really funny, but um oh god, I just and even the action in Dark of the Moon is like exhausting. It's so exhausting because that was also the era of like every single blockbuster had to have a 3D option. And so that was the one where they're like, yeah, we're gonna have the shot of like Prime punching a character and it goes towards the camera, and like those shots have all aged very poorly, and they didn't even look good in 3D because the color grade is so fucking bad, and yeah, God, Dark of the Moon is so bad. Um, I there's parts of it that I want to like. I remember seeing the trailer for Dark of the Moon when it first came out and being like, "This is a badass trailer. I can't wait to see this." Um, but like, there's probably about 2 minutes of that movie that are good. And it's an unbearably long movie aside from that. And like I said, even like the one moment of we talked about this before, where like even the one moment of badass where like the line everybody likes to quote where um um Megatron comes in and saves Prime from being taken out by Sentinel. And he's like, "Where would you be without me, Prime?" And he's like, "Let's find out." It's like that's badass, but it's also like very uncharacteristic of Prime to just like execute Sentinel in cold blood like that. And we've already talked about that in the past.
Out of character, perhaps, but you know the angle I come at things from, at least in context of the Bayformer films, Optimus Prime being entirely too nice, I think it could be seen as a character flaw because it has gotten him and his friends killed multiple times. And even going back as far as the 1986 movie, I'm not saying Prime needs to be completely bloodthirsty, but a lot of people were criticizing Age of Extinction and The Last Night for Prime, you know, wanting to actually hurt humans. And I'm over here like, after he saved your world multiple times, they sell you out to some Decepticon bounty hunter and literally murder your friends and melt them down to use their body to make money. I would be pissed off too. So I can understand. I like that Prime actually has something of a breaking point. I like that he actually puts aside. Like, I see that as some character development. Whether or not it's good, it is progress in some direction. You know, it is debatable, of course, and it's preferential. But
it's just from a writing standpoint, they didn't have to write him into a situation like that. It's not that from a diegetic standpoint his actions were unjustified in Dark of the Moon. It's that they didn't have to write the scenario that way. They could have made it to, because like again, there's the book which you know I need to actually read it, but I have the novelization of Dark of the Moon because I specifically wanted to read this one part where, yeah, apparently the original screenplay was something like Megatron and Prime team up to defeat Sentinel, and then they go their separate ways, and they agree that they, you know, it's kind of like how Megatron and Prime are in Armada, where Megatron like needs Prime in order to feel like himself. He needs that rivalry in order to have like in order to keep going. And so when with Prime gone, he would just have no purpose. And so it was like, all right, we're just gonna walk away and settle this again later because we need this rivalry just to keep going, kind of thing. And that seems like the ending they went for with Dark of the Moon, but with the book, but in the film, not so much. They didn't do that. But anyway, I will catch up with you later, and if you're going to continue the stream, I hope you guys have a good time.
No, thanks for popping in, and we definitely need to do this more often. Not sure if it would be like as themed as this time was, talking about Transformers and such, but I definitely would love to get on another, just even if we're doing our own separate streams with different contexts, we just get on and just chat and have just a good chill time, because this is therapeutic for me, you know. Chat with buddies, playing video games.
I'll definitely need to, especially as I get footage for like Fist of the North Star and the other games like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, I will see you later.
All right, peace out, bro. Later. All right, for everyone still on my stream, sorry I haven't looked at the chat in a little bit. I'll take a look at it after this round. I'm probably gonna keep going just a little bit longer. Probably just gonna finish out this round as Ravage, like this arcade mode, whether it be actually defeating Megatron or just losing, and then I'll go ahead and call it a night on this end as well. Konami is an odd one out, playing nice with the competition, upset with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy video because they're made by Hudson. 4Kids sued, or Konami sued 4Kids over GBA video. I wasn't aware of most of this. I remember GBA video, like, I actually have a couple of those laying around. I remember those were really, really odd, just seeing a cartoon broken down to, like, a Game Boy Color screen. Or not Game Boy Color, a Game Boy Advance screen. I remember when I was a kid, I used to want, like, a Video Now so bad, like Video Now Color or whatever those were, just portable video player with, like, a little tiny screen. And now we have, like, streaming services and YouTube on our phones and all that. I can put videos on my phone. And I'm like, you know, little kid me would have loved this, but it now just seems like it seems so standard. You know, it's technology has definitely come a long way since the 90s and 2000s. Yeah, again, sorry if my voice is a little bit stuffed up. It's if I go for long periods of time while talking without like trying to blow my nose or something, it starts getting to doing that. Four kids ruin the English animated dub shows by censoring them. Yeah. There's a lot of those cases. I've actually been entertaining the idea of tracking down the 4Kids dub of One Piece and like doing a video review on that. Like, I have no intention, anytime soon at least, of diving headfirst into the greater One Piece as it exists now with its over 1,000 episodes, just because I have way too much else on the back burner to watch. But I've considered doing a review on the 4Kids dub of One Piece, because I remember watching bits of that on like Fox Kids and Foxbox when I was growing up, and I died. Okay, well, I guess that's it then, because you know, gameplay on this one's getting kind of stale because I've been using the exact same strategy, and I don't feel like getting good tonight. So, thank you all for sticking out for this 2-hour-long stream of just capturing video footage for a later video that I don't know when it's coming out, because the deadline for what I wanted to is passed, but it'll be sometime down the line, because, like I said, I love Beast Wars, I love Transformers, and this is a project I wanted to do for a while anyway, so no time like the present, I suppose. But we'll see when this comes out later. So, again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next stream or video. Peace out. G.I. Joe part at the end. Yeah, forgot to talk about that while he was on here. I don't know if they have other G.I. Joe movies that are tied into this, like have been recently released. But I'm okay with this crossover because G.I. Joe and Transformers have done crossovers in the past, so I'm all for it. I don't think everything needs a cinematic universe. Not everything can be Marvel, but I will say I hope that it doesn't become a distraction to Transformers if they're going to continue with this. And I would actually like things to be more focused on the Transformers and less on the humans. So I'm okay if they have G.I. Joe, but I don't want it to interfere with Transformers, if that makes sense. So that's my stance on things. Okay. This time, for real. Bye-bye.